If you're watching this, there's a pretty good chance that you're not lazy. You probably do some reading, you listen to podcasts, maybe watch podcasts, have some form of a spiritual life, prayer, meditation, reading. You're probably very intentional about what you want your life to look like. And it's possible that even after doing all of that, implementing good practices, that your life isn't actually where you thought it would be. So today I want to talk about why without blaming and without feeding you another tactic. Let's talk about it. My name is Eric Wayne Wade. I meet with men just like you every week to break the silence, unmask, and embrace vulnerability to rise into the men we were created to be. This is one of the most frustrating places a man can be. You're not in denial. You're not asleep. You're very much aware of the behaviors that you've had that's gotten you to where you are. You're awake. You are consciously trying to improve. You've probably cut back on some bad habits. You've developed some healthier patterns in your life. And so you've grown. You've seen evidence of growth in your life, but you're not quite where you want to be. Now, what happens here is most men, they try harder, right? They read more, they watch more podcasts, listen to more podcasts, they pray harder, and sometimes you lose faith altogether. Sometimes you lose confidence in who you are as a man. That's not it. This is where most men miss it. Change doesn't happen when you desire more. It doesn't happen when you increase your effort. It happens when you start to eliminate the beliefs that are contradicting the man that you say you're becoming. Let's talk about what that means. Ultimately, resistance is what's keeping you from being where you want to be. And it's the tricky thing because resistance doesn't always look like sabotage. Sometimes it looks like being responsible, being reasonable, waiting for the right time. And an example of that is, well, I want freedom. Okay, that's what I want in my life. But if you look at your calendar, it's set up and designed for stability. You might say things like, I want to be a leader, in my work, in my family, starting a new business. I'm a leader inside. I know it, so I want to be a leader. But yet you avoid being fully seen in all areas of your life. Another instance might be you say you want more purpose in your life, but you're making decisions that align more with familiarity or what you feel safe doing instead of being aligned to having more purpose. Now, that's not a motivation problem. That is an identity and an alignment problem. I had to learn this myself. I'm still learning it. And I wasn't blocked by confusion. I wasn't blocked by lack of clarity. I was blocked by the parts of myself that were still structured for who I used to be, for somebody that I've already outgrown. For instance, I say that mountain men is a purpose of mine. It's a passion. I want to use this as a tool to meet men and help them where they need it the most. But yet I hold back on some of my messaging because I don't want to get on some people's nerves. I still have a belief inside of me that I don't want to annoy people. I don't want to bother people. I don't want people to view some of the videos and say, well, here he goes talking about meditation again. Here he goes talking about self-awareness again. Why does he think that every man needs some type of place in his life to be vulnerable? I have to remind myself that if men feel that way when they watch the content that I put out, they're just simply not ready for it. And that's okay. I can't let that stop me from bringing out the message that I know at least one man today desperately needs to hear. And that's what Mountain Men is here for. And so when I limit what this is built for by my limiting beliefs or my doubts or my fears, then I can't expect Mountain Men to have the impact that I know it was built and designed to have. And so until I named those blocks in my own life, nothing changed. Here's something that's uncomfortable. Self-improvement can be a form of resistance. So when growth stays internal, when insight never becomes action, when you say, man, I have so much clarity, my perspective, my outlook on everything in my life has changed completely. I'm not who I used to be. But when you look at your calendar, nothing's changed. Everything as it was before, when you were the old version of yourself. When you look back on the conversations that you're having on a daily basis, they're the same types of conversations you were having before. When your overall standards haven't changed, you haven't elevated the boundaries or the borders of what you let into your life, what you let into your mind, what you let into your household. That's not evolving. That's staying stalled. That's staying stuck. So the shift that changes everything is removing what no longer fits. It's not trying harder. It's not having more desire. It's not putting forth more effort. It's outgrowing the old version of yourself, the old patterns of yourself, and taking away, removing what no longer makes sense. It's outgrowing some of the roles that you had in your life. Maybe either you or people around you placed you in a role where you were the rescuer. Okay, you were always the one that people called, and so you're always on the go, helping other people, never caring for yourself, and it left you drained and it left you empty. So maybe the version that you've outgrown is no longer playing the role of the rescuer of everybody in your life. Maybe some of the identities that you've had. Maybe you've identified as somebody who wasn't a good communicator. I'm not a good speaker. I'm not a somebody that needs to be in front of people. People don't want to hear me. I can be boring. I'm not very smart. I'm not very intelligent. These are identities that either you've given yourself or something that happened in your childhood planted that seed of thought in your mind and you've held on to it and it's kept you stuck and it's kept you from being the person that you were created to be. This means outgrowing routines. I start my other job usually at 11 o'clock in the morning. So I have quite a bit of time in the morning after I get my son to school. I like to go to the gym. I like to come home and meditate. And I had a routine for a while where I would just scroll or listen to podcasts or just watch something that maybe I know my wife doesn't care to watch. I'm a big documentary guy, and that's my opportunity to maybe watch a new documentary or maybe even an old one. I've learned that, again, if I say that Mountain Men is going to be my purpose, if it's going to be top of the list of a new shift in my life, then I've got to really be more strategic about how I'm spending that time before I start my other job. So changing the routine of maybe watching something that I want to watch or scrolling for a little bit. I set aside time each morning. Okay, today, here's my checklist for Mountain Men. I've got to accomplish A, B, C, D. And this is non-negotiable. And changing routines, even when you don't feel like that person on the inside quite yet, starts to shift and change the identities. And it'll bring the outcomes that it's more aligned to the person you say you're becoming. This is the work we do inside Unmasked. It's not hype. It's not information overload. It's identity alignment. It's where your actions, your decisions, and your structure finally matches the man you say you're becoming. If your life hasn't changed, it's not because you're broken. It's because there's something in your life that's structured around the person that you used to be. And once that changes, everything else follows. Remember, you don't need more motivation. You don't need to work harder, try harder, extend your efforts, increase your desires. you need to remove your masks and remove the resistance. So I've attached links in the comments and description. Follow, like, subscribe, and stop putting this work on the back burner. Become the man you're created to be.